I used to believe that the way I saw myself was set in stone. My self-concept, the way I thought about who I was and what I was capable of, to me felt like an unchangeable fact. If I had a bad habit, it would seem like a part of me, something I couldn't just erase. If I doubted myself, it felt like that was my default mode. But what I didn't realize at the time was that this perception wasn't a reflection of who I truly was. It was just a story I had been telling myself over and over again. But the turning point came when I discovered something called the law of reverse effect. The law of reverse effect is a principle that completely transformed how I thought about my self-concept, actually my life. It's funny how one concept can change everything, but this one did. Let me explain. What is the law of reverse effect? Well, at its core, the law of reverse effect is a simple idea. Have you noticed that when you are trying to force something, it often has the opposite effect? For example, when you desperately want to relax and let go of stress, the more you try, the more tense you become. Or when you try to push too hard to be perfect, the harder it becomes to achieve the very thing you want. And in the context of self-concept, this law means that the more you try to change who you are through sheer force, the more you actually reinforce the very beliefs that hold you back. It's like the law of paradox. The harder you chase a feeling of confidence, the more elusive it becomes. But the moment you stop trying so hard and simply align with who you truly are, things start to shift. Your self-concept is the mental image you have of who you are, how you view your own worth, abilities, personality, and your role in the world. When someone has a self-concept issue, it often involves negative beliefs or distortions about themselves that affect their confidence, actions, and decisions. And for years, I struggled with a negative self-concept. I saw myself as someone who was always second-guessing decisions, feeling insecure in social situations, and unable to achieve the goals I set for myself. Every time I tried to break free from these patterns, I felt like I was digging myself into a deeper hole. I would think things like, why can't I just be more confident? Or why can't I get rid of these fears? But the more I tried to fix myself, the more I started to believe things like, maybe I was just broken. I remember thinking, maybe I was just one of those people who had self-doubt built into my DNA, that I would always struggle to see myself in a positive light. But after a while, I began to realize that these beliefs weren't reality. They were just thoughts I had accepted over time, and they didn't have to define me. The breakthrough came when I realized that my struggle to change my self-concept was actually making it worse. I was trying to push my self-image into something that wasn't true. I was forcing myself to be confident, forcing myself to believe I was capable, and yet the harder I tried, the more I felt like I was pretending. And it wasn't until I stepped back and let go of the pressure to change who I was that things began to shift. I decided to try something different: acceptance. So instead of constantly trying to change, I began to focus on learning to accept myself. I allowed myself to be imperfect, to feel vulnerable, and to acknowledge that I was a work in progress. I stopped obsessing over the idea of becoming better or more confident, and began to embrace who I was right there in the moment. And this small shift helped me realize something very important. The more I accepted myself, the more my self-concept naturally grew in a healthier, more empowering direction. When I understood the law of reversed effect, everything clicked. Instead of trying to force change, I began to accept myself exactly as I was, right where I was. And just by shifting my focus away from my flaws and paying more attention to the strengths and the progress I already had, my mindset began to change. While it might seem counterintuitive, but by releasing the pressure to change, I allowed my natural growth to unfold. I stopped forcing myself to become someone I thought I should be, and instead embraced who I truly was, imperfections and all. The process wasn't about achieving perfection. It was about practicing acceptance and self-compassion. And I would say that one of the most powerful aspects of this process was self-awareness. I started taking notice of my thoughts, especially the ones that made me feel insecure or doubtful. So instead of trying to instantly change those feelings, I would ask myself questions like, why do I feel this way? Or where's this belief coming from? By giving myself the permission to just explore my thoughts without judgment, I created space for my self-concept to grow naturally. And what I realized is that our thoughts and feelings are not facts. They are just temporary states that can change. When I started seeing my self-concept as something that is fluid, something that could be improved gradually through awareness and self-compassion, that's when I began to see significant shifts. The more I focused on what I was doing right and the progress I had made, the more my self-concept began to change. Let's be real. Perfection is overrated. In fact, chasing perfection can be one of the biggest barriers to improve your self-concept. The pressure to be perfect often makes us feel inferior when we inevitably don't measure up. Perfectionism is a trap. It tells us that we are not enough unless we are flawless. But the truth is, it's our imperfection that make us human. So when I let go of the need to be perfect, I gave myself permission to be real, to fail, and to learn. I stopped attaching my worth to achievements or how I compared to others. And that alone began to shift my self-concept in powerful ways. I realized that my worth wasn't tied to my accomplishments or my ability to avoid mistakes. It was inherent in who I was right now in this moment. And as I practiced this approach, I was able to notice something amazing happening. My self-concept began to shift without me forcing it. Slowly but surely, I started seeing myself in a more positive light. I didn't have to become confident. I just had to let go of the limiting beliefs that kept me from recognizing my own strength and capability. The more I embraced who I was, the more I naturally grew into a person who felt more empowered, more capable, and more confident. It wasn't a sudden dramatic change. It was a gradual, gentle shift that came from consistently choosing acceptance over resistance. And over time, this new self-concept allowed me to take bolder actions, make decisions with more confidence, and stepped into my life with a sense of purpose and direction. Now, when I think about my self-concept, I see it as something that is always evolving. It's not fixed, and it doesn't need to be perfect. It's a work in progress, just like me. I think the key here is to stop forcing change and start accepting who you are right now. Once you do that, your self-concept will naturally begin to shift in a positive direction. So if you are struggling with your own self-concept, take a step back. Stop trying to change who you are by force. Practice acceptance instead. Focus on your strengths and remember, your potential is already within you. It just needs to be uncovered. So ultimately, the law of reversed effect showed me that change doesn't have to be hard. Sometimes the best way to change is to stop fighting against who you are and start embracing your true self. And the shift will happen naturally. And when it does, you'll be amazed at the power you've been holding all along. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Darlene, and if you found this video helpful, please don't forget to subscribe for more content like this one. Your support means the world to me. And remember, trust in your potential. Take care of yourself. See you next time. Bye-bye.